But then that night I was all alone and something awful happened. Like it was bad. The tears were rolling down my face and I was like, hi, so I'm back. So where were we? I have my notes here on this iPad. I can't find my phone today. Anyway, it was January 9th. So I'm in the hospital birth recovery room and I can't get up, so my mom is helping me kind of every step of the way and bringing me things, especially bringing me my baby. I spend a lot of this time doing skin to skin and trying to feed her. I was having a lot of issues with breastfeeding in the first couple of weeks, so the first few days were pretty difficult. I also had my mom watch my baby while I was sleeping because I had this fear that she was going to suffocate in her sleep, so I really needed someone to be there all the time. Also, the temperature in the hospital, or in my room at least, was really warm, so I was able to have her unclothed and just a little blanket over her, and it was pretty easy for us to transition to skin just because we didn't have to take any layers off. It was a really, really good temperature despite it being the middle of winter. So I did try doing skin to skin as much as possible, knowing that she was a bit premature and she came out C-section, so I knew that skin to skin was very essential and important for her to stay healthy. I got a pretty fun menu that I could fill out for all the meals of the day. There were different check boxes that you could add to your meal, and I don't know, it was kind of fun. And they had some pretty great foods, but in the beginning I did just eat what I was craving, even if it wasn't the healthiest choice. I really didn't hold back. I did try to add some healthy things just so I could feel a bit healthy, but mostly I was going to my craving foods like chocolate and carbs, but I still maintained a balanced meal. My mom stayed the night of January 9th, and here are some first close-up videos that I took and the beginning of many hiccups. Something really bothered me that night and I started getting irritated for the first time in a while, and it was because I still had the catheter in from the operation. And it just felt so disgusting to me. I just hated it being in there, and every time I would go to use the bathroom, I would have to hold it in a certain way. I couldn't hold it up like this, or else I would see like the pee coming down, and it just freaked me out, and I could not stand the feeling of it just being there and tugging while I'm walking around the room as well. Because at this point I was able to get up and walk around, thankfully. But it was painful to bend down, so I did that very slowly and more in a squatting position rather than bending straight down. I remember calling the nurse, I think at least once, maybe 2 times, to ask them if they could take out the catheter, and they said they had to wait a certain amount of hours after the operation. So it was about 3 a.m. that they were able to take out the catheter, and I was just impatiently waiting for this to happen. So I couldn't really sleep because I was just so uncomfortable. The next day was really chill. My mom stayed there for the beginning of the day, but then she went home because she wanted to sleep in her own bed. And I wasn't allowed any other visitors besides her for those first 24 hours. But then once it was the next 24 hours, I could have one other visitor, but it could only be them coming in and out. I decided I still wanted it to be my mom, so when she was able to come back, then she would come back, which will be the next morning. But then that night I was all alone and something awful happened. Like it was bad. So as you may or may not know, after giving birth, you will pass a bowel movement, and this doesn't happen right away, and sometimes it's difficult for it to pass, so they give you like a drink that you can drink that is sort of a laxative, which they did give me. Yeah, so the first one is a hard one. For me, it wasn't hard for it to happen, but I don't know if this is TMI, but skip this if you don't want to hear it. But yeah, I guess it was a large one because I hadn't gone for a while, and I knew I had to use the bathroom before going into labor. It was kind of like an awkward timing, and I just didn't end up doing it. So it had been more than 24 hours. I think it was like a day and a half at this point, maybe it would have been 2 days, and it was like really big, and I tried flushing it, and no, it did not flush. It just, the water started overflowing the toilet. It started getting all over the floor. I quickly got out before my feet got wet, and I called the nurse and let them know. And they came in and said, this has happened before, don't worry about it. We'll get you into a new room. The transition to that new room went really smooth. Baby didn't even wake up. The toilet overflowed, so I'm in a different room now. Can you tell? She didn't even wake up the whole way through. I still can't think of a name. That's like the hardest part. It's almost till 12, but after this feeding, I'm going to sleep for they said I can give her 3.5 hours in between, because right now she's on formula. But I'll have to tell you, something awful happened again, but I'll get into that in a moment. So baby was on formula because I wasn't producing any drops of milk at this point. As I mentioned, I was not doing any hand expression because of, I guess, the sort of triggering feelings that nurse brought upon me. So I couldn't bring myself to hand express. So the baby, my baby, needed to increase her levels in something. I can't remember what that something was, maybe glucose or something like that. And so the first milk that was provided to her was donor milk, which I was so thankful for, because that is another person's milk, breast milk, chest milk. I was a part of the donor milk program until those levels rose in the baby, and after that I had to decide how am I going to feed her, because the program only allows for babies to use that milk under certain conditions, of course, because they don't have an unlimited supply. I was like, my option really, all it is formula, so that's what we had to switch to for a couple of days. And this really wasn't my hope and desire, but my plan from the beginning was always to breastfeed, even before I even thought of having kids. So this was a bit disappointing to me, of course, but it only encouraged me to work harder on making myself able to breastfeed if it was possible. I do want to mention something, like a special moment that happened to me was when I was in this second room, and I had a new nurse, and she was so sweet, and she asked me if I had any other kids, and I said no, and she was surprised and said, "Oh really, because you seem like such a natural at this." That just made me feel really good and gave me this extra boost of confidence that I didn't really know that I needed until later. That nurse was my favorite, and compared to the other nurse, she was really great. We bonded over a few things, and I think we were similar ages as well. So she seemed really warm, and I felt super comfortable with her around. Fast forward a little bit, after I had a little crying session with my baby, just an emotional, happy crying, sort of sad crying. I just remember holding her, and I was just I felt sorry for her, that she's going to feel pain in her life one day, because we all get pain, and maybe I'm gonna cause her pain, not on purpose, of course, but it happens in life. Apologizing to her from the inside, and then I was just starting to make that real bond. Like I said it earlier in the video, I didn't feel a bond right in the beginning, but it was the second night when I was alone, and that's kind of when the bond just clicked. And I mean, having a baby for the first time, you don't realize that this bond, it just grows stronger and stronger and stronger the more time that you spend with them, and the older that they get, and the more interactions and like moments that you share together. And now I feel like we're inseparable. We're just like linked. We're like the same person at this point. Like I can't imagine being away from her for longer than a couple of hours right now. I know I'll have to be soon because she's gonna start daycare, but yeah, it's hard to feel what is your identity not being a mom. It's like that's my main identity, is Isla's mom. Like that's it. And I'm kind of, I know this is off topic a little bit, but I'm kind of struggling a little bit with remembering who I was before and finding myself again, and remembering what else makes me happy outside of being a mom. What are my goals and passions, and what do I want to do in my life? So yeah, that's kind of a relevant thing almost 1 year after giving birth. So let's just get back into the story. Fast forward a little bit after this little moment that we had crying, something awful happened again. I had to switch rooms again. You want to know why? Because I was having this moment, and then I look up and I see this little creature running across the floor of the other side of the room, and I'm like, oh, it's a mouse. Yeah, so there was a mouse in the room. I called the nurse and I was like, I don't want to alarm you or make you scared, but I think I saw a mouse. I'm not too scared about it, but I only worry because I don't want the mouse crawling up into my baby's like bassinet incubator that they have for her, or crawling on me if I'm falling asleep, that too. And I don't know, kind of dirty, right? Then we ended up switching to another room on the other side of the birth unit ward. And we switched rooms again because there was a mouse in the other room. And now this is a bit of a downgraded room, even though it's a private room. It doesn't really matter because all the rooms are private. Here she is. There's a weird noise somewhere, but I'm going to have my music on with the speaker, and I'm going to watch a movie and go to sleep. I'm only going to watch something because that noise is really annoying, and I want to eat my cookies and just take my mind off of that mouse situation. And this room, it sucked. So the second room was amazing. I had this amazing view of the city, and it was just like big windows. The room was huge because it was actually a room that was split into two, but because of only one person could be in that room anyway. But then I had to move into a small, old, shabby room. So I ended up reading all the different pamphlets that were given to me by the hospital staff because I just couldn't sleep. I also tried watching movies, eating snacks, and no, I just could not get to sleep. Good morning. So I've been discharged, and she still has to do her hearing test. And then she's pretty much done. We need to register the birth. And then Haley's coming. Jessica and Mari will come to the parking lot. All right, so the next morning, my mom came to pick me up around 11 a.m. I was discharged a bit earlier than that, but I wanted some time to get ready and pack up my stuff, take a shower, get ready to get out of there. So my mom came in and just to help me pack up my things and put her in the car seat and do all that kind of stuff. And I still had not picked out a name at this point but I had to register the birth before leaving the hospital. So I went over to the computers and I went through the names that I had messaged to my family members, and I picked out a name and then I registered her birth. The computers weren't working, which was really annoying, so I had to go to like another area and go on a different computer, and it took a long time and I was sweating a lot, so I really needed a shower after that. So then I took a shower and we were doing the car seat test, and to see if the baby fits well in the car seat. Well, at this point now her name is Isla. We had to put Isla into the car seat, and once we buckled her in, she was all good, but I was not too familiar with newborn babies. I haven't seen a lot in my lifetime, especially I haven't been around any in my life. I didn't know what to expect in terms of their behavior and any like weird odd things that they might do. So Isla started her eyes started looking up, like they were rolling back in her head, and she was doing these weird facial expressions, and this really scared me and concerned me. So I called the nurse. My mom was like, no, it's normal, don't worry about it. But I was thinking that she was having a seizure. So I got freaked out, and once the nurse came, I remember the tears were rolling down my face, and I was like I was just scared that she was having a seizure, and everything went perfect and now something's wrong. But the nurse, we sat there and we waited to see if she would do it again, and eventually she did, and the nurse told me it's completely normal. Babies make these weird faces all the time, these funny faces, and it's probably like she's just sleeping and dreaming. So yeah, that's baby Rem for you. Very weird looking faces. So then we left, we went downstairs, and my besties were downstairs waiting for me and gave me a little gift, and we just chilled in the waiting area while my mom got the car warmed up. So that was really special and sweet. And then I went into the car and I said bye to my friends through the window. They couldn't really get too close, and we all had they had their masks on. Yeah, so then we head home, we visit my dad's place on our way home so that he could meet Isla, and he loved her, he was so happy. And I don't know how people look so good after giving birth, by the way. I was so swollen, like from my head to my toes, especially my feet. It was bad, but I was like so puffed up. I felt like it was like, even my breathing was a bit constricted. The way I spoke, it was kind of muffly. Well, yeah, so we made it home, and I have a video that I took right after coming home and the first, I think, 24 hours. And I can link that down below, and I'll also like put it right up here if you're interested in watching that. This came a year late, but that's all right. I was just hesitant on making it, but I hope it was informative, and whoever watched it to the end now, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and if you did like it, give the video a thumbs up, please, and click subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos like this and videos about psychology as well. And that's all. I will see you in my next video. Bye!